So good evening tonight. Welcome to Biz 310. And we are talking about Chapter 7 and using social media in business. There's quite a few resources that I've provided for you this week. And I don't want you to become overwhelmed at any particular juncture in time. So please be assured that everything I'm showing you tonight is available in Canvas and will be released, if not already, by the end of the evening. So let's go ahead and show you a couple of the thoughts for tonight. When we talk about using social media in business, there's a couple resources that I want to point you to, but before we begin, I have an overview cheat sheet that I've always provided for my students. And if you were to go into, and I'm going to take my settings off here in just a moment. I'm going to move this up here. There's something I call Chapter 7 handout with hyperlinks. And I'm going to increase the size of this so I can go over this with you. So when we talk about social media in business, when we talk about the social media community, we talk about reasons to listen and why social media matters. And social media is completely relevant to today's business communications. And so reasons we listen is, first of all, overall sentiment. A lot of times you've noticed in communication, often information will be leaked via social media and attitudes far before it may be prevalent in, let's say, your sales decreasing. So target new stakeholders, identify the champions and those who love your work and your business. Also identify the critics and fend off any crises that may occur. Audit your efforts, study the success stories, identify new program or product opportunities, identify donors or lower costs, keep tabs on competitors, and finally, improving your campaign or programs. This handout is going to be available in Canvas, but in addition, I've put some additional links for you. Community Insights Checklist. This talks about, what to listen for when you talk about your social community. I'm going to go ahead and minimize these really quickly so they get out of your way. And this is listening not only to the numbers, but what they're saying. And this is a Community Insights Checklist. So what are they saying about your brand? What are the complaints? Who really believes in you? And is that opening up a new market for you to seek, or a channel of new clientele? Perpetual distractors, and these are those who take away from your brand for whatever reason. Is there a need in the marketplace that you currently can fill that's not being filled? And how can our community help inform our new offerings or services or products? And what suggestions do they have to improve? I really recommend we use social media, no matter what we're doing, to glean information from our clientele and how best to serve them. Are there ways to crowdsource something, in other words, to decrease the strain on our staff? Or what exists outside the communities that we can tap into? And are there partnerships? What stories can we reach out to and perhaps use to further our brand? And bottom line, how can we use these insights to really drive our mission forwards? So there's the keywords checklist here for you. And again, this is simply a resource for you. So when you look at this particular handout as well, there's also the keywords checklist. Okay, so now once again, let's scroll back up. Let's talk about this in the textbook when we start talking about the steps in your media and the questions to ask. And this is setting up your social media and what questions should you be asking. When you audit your social media, what questions should you be asking? When you create or improve the profiles, what questions should be forefront? Developing the current strategies and the content that will be in it. And then finally, using analytics to track progress. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. There's an article I've attached here called Steps to an Effective Social Media Strategy. And this is a great resource. This is from Convince and Convert. And when we talk about Jay Baer's methodology, this will really break it down into, when we talk about social media, it's building the arc, it's listening and comparing. What's the point? And selecting the matrix that is most successful. Really analyzing your audience and finding that one thing you do really, really well. But also you have to have that really human component. Then you create that channel plan. So these are the 8 steps. Great resource. Let's go back to our resources. The other thing that I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about tonight is when we talk about strategy development and engagement in social media, really developing your strategy, identifying your objectives, your audience, integration, culture change, capacity, tactics, tools, measurement, experiment. And we have what's called the POST method. And this was found by Forrester. And that's where POST is people. And that's really assessing your customer social computing behaviors. Then, based upon that, objectives, and decide what you want to accomplish. Strategy, and then technology. Assessing the overall sentiment, targeting new stakeholders, identifying your champions, identify your critics and fend off your crisis, audit your efforts, study the success stories, identifying new program or product opportunities, and identifying your donors or lower costs, keeping tabs on your competitors, improving your campaigns and programs, and then again, I talk about the community insights checklist. So again, all of these are wraparound resources that are found in Canvas. So let's talk about this week's resources. I'm going to change my view to the student view. Oh, let's go back. Modules. Take a moment. Perfect. Okay. For chapter number 7, first of all, when you talk about learning the content in social media, take a moment to load. Our objectives this week are: how can business plan, implement, and evaluate a social media strategy? What are good practices for composing and publishing social media and content? How can businesses use social media to accomplish specific communication goals? And finally, how can you, as an employee, use social media responsibly, which is really tricky? And inversely, how can you, as a manager, make sure that your employees are using social media responsibly? I have the videos for you this week, and I've broken it down to study question 1, 2, followed by study question 2 and 3. For those of you who'd like to follow along in the script, I have the PDF with all the scripts included. The handout for tonight, which is called Day 1 Student Copy, is empty for you. But by the time you check back after tonight's recording, you will have this Chapter 7, Day 1, completed copy available for your notes, and all hyperlinks are active. It'll look something like this. I've also put some key resources for you this week. First of all, social media audit templates. It's extremely important that if you are present on any social network, you keep detailed record as to who owns a profile, what the URL is, and when it was last updated. So this is an example of a social media template available from Hootsuite. I've also put some additional resources for you this week, including social media ranking. When you access this website, this was currently updated in March of this year, and this is who's using what, when, and how. So as you can see, once again, Facebook in the lead, followed by YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Google+, Tumblr, etc. This is a great guide for those of you who aren't familiar with all the social networking options, as well as who's using them. Notice this does break it down into social networks as well as social network sites and media. The next resource that I have for you here is from Keyhold. It's important if you decide to use social media that you really take part in social monitoring. And when you monitor your tools, there's 25 top social media monitoring tools available for you. So this is a great site which Keyhole uses to take a look at the different resources available for you as a business or business owner to monitor who's accessing your site, when, how, who they are, the demographics, as well as how best to leverage this information for your marketability. The next resource is simply the slideshows that support the handout that I've given you earlier. This is called Social Media Strategy, and it has all of the slides to support the handout as well as the links I've provided. CoSchedule.com is an additional resource available to you regarding social media strategy templates and how to create templates. This is a great blog that is ongoing, has a great feed as to what others are using when it comes to infographics and use of social media to really impact the quality versus quantity of your social media presence. The next resource I have for you, Social Media Strategies, supports a slideshow from before. This is from Dragon Voracek. Great resource when it comes to using articles and documents, as well as social media framework to build the most powerful brand representation. No lecture or resources would be complete on social media without also giving you a good heads up into social media disasters. Here is a link to the YouTube of the top 10 social media disasters of well-known companies. Take time to view this video. It's great information in addition to an amazingly entertaining moment. Let's talk about the activities for this week. This week, once you review the chapter, once again, there will be My BCom Lab activities. There'll be the warm-up and the DSM. Crafty Messages is the video, followed by a simulation, and then a document makeover 1 and 2, followed by a quiz. As I mention every week, and I'll mention it this week too, My BCom Lab activities will always stay open, and you can always go back and revisit them or complete them at any time. This is a link to My BCom Lab activities. This week, in Chapter 7, it's Key Concepts number 1. I've put an image of Key Concepts number 1 as well as a little teaser. Please remember that a file upload when submitting this is expected. The discussion for this week is talking about older workers. Some analysts argue that the prevalence of social networking and social media excludes older workers and older customers who are not comfortable with digital communication. If this is true, what can businesses really do to address the problem, as well as draw them into the fold when it comes to social media? The quiz this week is 40 questions, open note, open book, and open brain. That will complete all the activities for Chapter 7. Now let's talk about your group activity for the week. One of the things that we're trying to do is on the front page, we hope to have a link here to your group activity of the week. And sometimes it seems to work, sometimes not so much. Now, this will download the instructions for the week. So let's go through the instructions for the week. This week, you're producing a PR piece, and it's called Careers with Us. It's simply a one-page flyer. It's a visual that captures who you are, what career opportunities your organization provides, some highlights of the benefits the career of your organization will provide. Your flyer must have functioning hyperlinks to key websites. Now, for example, click here to learn more, and it may take you to the current jobs available. For those of you who talked about creating an information survey or a registration for those students interested, then please, you can absolutely use that as your hyperlink, but it's not required. You're going to download your completed flyer in PDF format. Now remember, please create a document with visual appeal, including logos, team members, and any other important information. Use your collaborative space, Google Docs, to create and dialogue, and use email to communicate back and forth the expectation and deadlines, and many of you are doing a great job at that now. Post the final product to the appropriate Dropbox by the deadline. Here's some examples: Google, Twitter, Amazon, EA. What information do you want to present for your company? So when you go to your modules, there will be in the group the instructions identical to what I've just reviewed with you, followed by the Dropbox as to where you'll submit not only the PDF, but again, continue to upload or give me a link to your URL. This allows me to check the live document for those students who entered information later or after the deadline. Okay, so let's take a look here. This is Chapter 7, Using Social Media. All the resources can be found in the Modules area under Chapter 7. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my chat if there's no questions. I'll go ahead and stop the recording and hang out for any questions for those of you who'd like to stay behind. For those of you joining us tonight, thank you. For those of us viewing the video, please make sure if there's any questions, you email me. Have a great evening and a great week.